Insider, Ross Tucker and Dave Briggs, Swings and Misses with Jen and Cody Decker, and Scallon Pals with Brian Scalabrine. Available on radio.com. 97.1 The Ticket brings you college basketball's greatest championship games. The 2010 Classic, Duke versus Butler. Brought to you by SoldByYZ.com and Buffalo Lumber. Saturday at 3. 97.1 The Ticket.
It is the Jamie and Stoney Show, 97.1 The Ticket, March 26th. Darren McCarty is going to join us coming up just after 7 o'clock. Talk about the famous Wings-Avs game from 23 years ago tonight. Stoney?
Yes, sir.
You want to talk about tickets?
Oh, yeah. I was seeing this story, with all the games being, canceled or not canceled, postponed, there's $1 billion in consumer capital tied up in tickets that are stuck in limbo. And there are some people, I don't know about season ticket holders per se, but just everybody who's got tickets to games and I guess concerts as well that are not going to be played or, concerts going to, be performed. Obviously, those have already said, I've already heard, the ads we run, for some of the concerts, refunds are available. But in sports, they're not refunding anything right now because they still have the hope, the dream that these games are going to be replayed. And, I know teams are losing a lot of money, as the players are, as everybody else in this ridiculous situation we're in. But they are collecting some amount of interest if they're holding up this money for games that haven't been played for a long time. And I don't think it's fair. Specifically, I don't know how many people actually, travel for games or whatever, but there's a story, and I'm reading in the USA Today about some fan who, planned a trip to Las Vegas, got tickets to see the Vegas Golden Knights. He ain't going to Las Vegas. That, whenever that game's made up, his trip is canceled. Credit does no good because he may not even ever go to Vegas. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that. I understand what they're doing. I understand the business model. Why are we going to give people money back now when the games have not been canceled? But that's the way big business is. They're going to screw you any chance they can.
Yeah, I know that's the cynical attitude, and it's probably justified, but I don't know if there's names attached to this or if there's just a general quote-unquote unrest, but can't people take a frickin' chill pill and relax for a couple days? My God. First of all, it hasn't even been 2 weeks.
I know.
Okay?
Well, the NBA's been, I think, 3 weeks.
No, stop saying that. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago last night that they suspended the NBA. Okay? Number two, I believe in most circumstances, not everybody, many people are working from home. So they're getting used to a new normal. They're trying to figure out, are my employees safe? Are my employees healthy? How do we keep our business running? So on and so forth. So refunding tickets to games that still may be played may not be super high on their priority list. And if you're the guy, the anecdote you gave, which I think is a made-up anecdote or is it a true anecdote about Mr. Vegas?
No, I'll give you the guy's name if you want.
I don't care, but I'm just saying, my guess is when you buy a ticket to a game, isn't there something that says the day and time of this game might be changed? Let's say you were going to go to Atlanta back in 2012 or whatever year it was, when there was that famous ice storm and the Pistons Hawks game was canceled and postponed for 2 months. What if you have tickets to a game that gets rained out? S happens.
Yeah, I understand that, but as somebody, one of the ticket holders who's complaining to StubHub and people like that, people can't get water, toilet paper, daycare, and you're keeping millions of consumers' dollars over technicality.
Oh my God. Seriously? Tell this guy to just relax for a little while, give it a couple days to breathe, and then we'll get back to it, okay? You're right. But to liken it to toilet paper and water is if anything, it underscores what a complete doofus he's being, okay?
Yeah.
If he can afford to buy tickets and take a trip to Las Vegas, then I'm guessing he probably can't afford to get toilet paper and water. So I'm guessing, I don't think he probably needs a refund on the ticket money to make ends meet. Now, I understand it's his money, and you're absolutely right. I'm not saying that he shouldn't get that money back eventually if the games are canceled. But if games get rescheduled and they have your money, what are you supposed to do?
I understand. I'm just saying that there are people that are pissed off. I understand both sides of it, and you're right. It has only been 2 weeks. So,
Right.
Yes, to use a Jamie Samuelson term, chill out.
Well, that's a Jamie Samuelson term?
Yeah, you just used it. That's fine.
I think I said take a frickin' chill pill.
Okay.
But look, people are different about money. I'm not trying to say that anyone's right or wrong. Some people are more, I'm not sure the right word, but they're more concerned about it. I think right now most people are concerned with their own health and the health of their families and the people around them, and making sure they get by. People are unfortunately losing jobs left and right, and if this guy is truly concerned about the economic situation in which he's living, he might want to look outside his window as opposed to worrying about when he's going to get his ticket refund from the Knights game he was hoping to attend in Las Vegas.
Right. There are others about it when you read all of them. But look, when you hear the number $1 billion, and people, a lot of people who only go to one game or whatever, maybe can't afford, the stuff that.
Of course.
I know.
No, I'm definitely sympathetic to those people, but again, these games might get played. I don't think they will. You don't think they will. But I believe that if you're an NBA team or you're an NHL team, you are looking at every possible situation right now. And then once they figure out exactly what's going to happen, then they will go ahead and figure out which money will get refunded and which money won't, So if you're missing out on the interest on that money in the short term, then unfortunately that's one of the sacrifices that you're going to have to make, along with every other American who's making a ton of sacrifices right now.
And if your teams like, the Wings and the Pistons, so to speak, who are out of it, when they do return, if you're the team, if you're the Wings and the Pistons, and you say, all right, we're going to refund you guys right now, these people aren't buying these tickets back again. You know what I mean? So I understand why the teams want to hang on to, at least to credit the consumer for whenever, if the season's even canceled. All right, listen, you can't go to opening day per se. All right, but maybe when we do start again, you can go to opening day that day, or opening day next year, or another game next year. That's the way to do it. And some of these teams thankfully have monthly payment plans, and I saw something in this article that Major League Baseball, some of the teams like the Cleveland Indians, fans got charged for March because they were under the impression that they were going to play, but they're not charging you, for April right now. So that's a good thing.
All right, it's coming up on 7 o'clock here on this March 26th. Coming up next, Darren McCarty, the Red Wing great. He is now a podcast host. We'll mention that when we come back to talk to Darren as well. It was 23 years ago tonight that the Red Wings played the Avs at Joe Louis Arena. An epic game, which is one of the more epic games Darren McCarty ever took part in. We'll talk to Darren about that night coming up next on 97.1 The Ticket.
WXYT FM and WXYT HD1 Detroit. The radio.com sports station. Sports headlines. All day, every day. This is 97.1 The Ticket. We start this time around with baseball, as today would have marked the start of the 2020 season for the Tigers, as they would have been in Cleveland for their opener against the Indians. Despite the delay in the schedule because of the coronavirus pandemic, Commissioner Rob Manfred telling ESPN last night that he would still like to see baseball play on a full 162-game schedule this season, but that the logistics of that type of schedule could be, quote, tough to work out. Meanwhile, several NFL executives and GMs telling the Bleacher Report's Mike Freeman that they doubt the 2020 NFL season will start on time in September because of the pandemic. Those executives believe the training camp, which normally would begin in late July, actually won't start until mid to late August. One thing that at this point isn't being delayed, the NFL draft, which is set to begin in less than a month. In his latest mock draft, ESPN draft expert Mel Kiper has the Lions taking Ohio State cornerback Jeff Okudah at number 3, a player that Kiper explains on a recent conference call would be a very good choice.
He, to me, is what Stephon Gilmore was coming out, what Patrick Peterson was coming out. He's going to be expected to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He has that skill set. He has the mindset for it. He's a very aggressive player.
Okudah would likely replace Darius Slay, who was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles just last week.
According to a series of posts on Twitter from ESPN basketball analyst Fran Fraschilla and East Tennessee State head basketball coach Steve Forbes, longtime Pistons scout Rory Hanks is in serious condition and in Knoxville, Tennessee hospital this morning after contracting the coronavirus. At the Ticket Update Desk, I'm Tony Ortiz. For more, stay tuned to 97.1 The Ticket and radio.com.
Jamie and Stoney on 97.1 The Ticket.
Jamie and Stoney, 97.1 The Ticket on a Thursday morning, March 26th. Jamie Samuelson along with Mike Stone. And it was 23 years ago tonight. The Wings met the Avs at Joe Louis Arena. And at the center of that game was our next guest, longtime Red Wing, longtime NHLer, now the host of the Grind Time podcast, a weekly podcast, as it says on the page on Apple Podcasts, with your host, number 25, Darren McCarty. And Darren joins us now on 97.1 The Ticket. Mac, how are you, sir? What's going on?
I'm good. Come on, Tony. Everybody in the world doesn't know what the heck's going on. Let's chill out on these tickets for a minute.
I know it's I'm done.
I love how you bring that up, but I love
Right.
how Jamie just sort of says there's things a little bit more important. We just have to realize that.
I know. Well, Jamie's always been the voice of reason. I'm always
Well,
been.
no kidding. It's good to see that even though we're talking about 23 years ago, this is something that people out there in the ticket land need to know, that this is nothing new that I've seen that's even back March 26, 97. So the conversation you guys were having before, you've been having for 20-some years. So that's good. It's good to know the consistency is still there.
Exactly.
Well, you brought it up, Darren. First of all, how are you doing? How's your family doing? Everybody doing okay with all this?
Yeah, my kids are out in California, so they're all doing their thing there, and then my stepkids are here with us, and I'm in Madison Heights, so doing that. And like you said, between the podcast, I got a new show, WJR 7 to 8 on Friday nights, and then Drake Smaltz and I are doing a big live broadcast today from 4 to 5 with NRM Streamcast. So other than that, I'm trying to keep busy. Just finding the weather's breaks, and it'd be nice to be outside. So, can you guys all believe it's been 23 years since that day, though?
No, it's incredible. It seems like yesterday. We were going to talk about later in the program. Do you think the younger generation are sick of hearing about it from us old guys?
Yeah, well, then do something about it.
I know.
Well, because we had to do the same thing, don't you remember? We had to hear about Gordy and Ted and all the things that never went in, and me especially growing up a Red Wings fan, and we all know about it. So the only way to shut up the old guys is just like anything else in the family, is go out and do it yourself.
So Darren, I've interviewed you a couple times about this game. I remember Stoney mentioned he was off, so me and Wojo did the show the next day on the old radio station. You came on, and we did a 10-year special about it on the 10th anniversary. And I think every time I interview you about it, I always ask the same question, which is, how did you not get thrown out of that game?
I got a caveat to that game, because I actually ran into Paul Dvorsky, who was one of the refs that night. I ran into him this year up in the game, and pretty much the Cole's notes is that if you didn't realize that was a culmination of the most hated man in the history of hockey, almost. There's been some over time, that you can put it up there with, but I didn't realize the gravity of how hated, because that covered the Cam Neelys, and it covered all the despicable stuff that he'd done to everybody else, and it just culminated there. So the fact that he didn't really get any, Paul Dvorsky, the ref, for me, getting 4 minutes for roughing, and the caveat to the whole thing is not just getting the revenge, it's scoring the overtime winner.
Right.
And that's why we're tied. That's the whole thing. And then one of the things I've been doing for the past 2 years is traveling around doing Darren McCarty Slapstick Comedy Tour. So I explained, and I'll get into it today because I'd like to get into it on the anniversary, is the gravity of the whole situation, because the hindsight having 4 cups and what it meant, but just, I remember the moment. I tell everybody, I remember the moment at the end, and it was almost going off the ice, and there's a great picture, Drapes and I hugging, but it was the proverbial, it was Wing Wheel Nation everywhere, not in the building, in the city, in the state, the country, everywhere. It was proverbial, everything's going to be all right. I don't know what it means. and then boom, it plays out. Well, I tell everybody the only other time I had that feeling was when Steve Yzerman was introduced as general manager. I had the same feeling like everything's going to be all right. I don't know what that means, or it's not when, it's when. So we're on the right track. I guess it's a long way to answer the question, Jamie, but if they're going to not hear about this history part, then they're in the right position with the right guys, in my opinion, to do something about it. But, again, it's not when, it's when.
Darren McCarty joins us on the Jamie and Stoney show. Now, before we get to the actual fight itself, you and Lemieux did like some signings together, and I know people around here were like, oh my God, how can he even be in the same room with that guy? And you kind of said, he's not that bad of a person off the ice. You guys talk still, or is that done?
No, listen, I mean, there's a well-documented off-the-record TSN that you can look at. It was 2011.
Yeah, I remember it.
And that's the first time I ever sat face-to-face with him. And you got to remember, I'm in the throes of alcoholism at the time, too. So you shouldn't have the interview the day after St. Patty's Day. So I was hungover, and I wasn't in a good mood and ornery. But I call it, if anybody knows me, I call it like I see it. And the fact that, as I say this, as to shake the man, I will shake his hand. I have respect for him. There's a different thing, and you have to understand this growing up. And is that some guys they're not the same as the way that they play. And I guess Claude could be that way. And I have to give him credit because he's come in and he's signed that sweet revenge picture, the one where I'm burying him, and he signed it with Turtle and stuff like that. And he's giving his money back to charity and things like that. So as a person, I got to call it like I see it. But as a player, I do the same thing to him, for being that way. But I also owe him a debt of gratitude, don't I?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think Detroit owes you a debt of gratitude, too. So I mean, Darren, obviously then 2.5, 3 months later, you scored the cup-clinching goal against the Flyers in Game 4. Is there any doubt that March 26th is your greatest night as a Red Wing, or does the cup clincher, like when you talk about your greatest moments?
No, I don't. If we're going to do something, and you guys brought it up as far as if these kids are just sick and tired of hearing about history, it's chronological. Without March 26th, that's in my opinion, Red Wing D-Day. That's what anybody wants to know what I'm doing. A lot of is catching up on history, World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, all that stuff. That's what I've been watching and stuff like that. And really it was that impactful because the whole thing is, you have to realize, and this is a caveat to it, is that every time we got up to the mountain, to the top, and there's a different, and then I'll paint it to this team, because now there's a suck you're going through right now as a Red Wing fan. It's as we did the Wings, where it's a dead wing era, where you have no expectations, you're watching people, but you can't win the cup. It's sort of like being a Lions fan every year, which I can say. Well, I can say that because I grew up across the border.
I know.
I've been as long as anybody else.
I know.
So I'm entitled to that opinion. But what I'm saying is that when you lose in 95 to, well, forget it, 93, you said 93, 94 President's League, lose the first round San Jose. 95, win the cup. Or not win the cup, play in the finals, lose to Jersey. Then you set the league record, 62 wins. Then you lose to Colorado. Then all this 97 year, you haven't beaten Colorado. So I don't care where you're from, what rivalry it is, the only way out is through. So we had to win the game. Yeah, we had to get the revenge for what happened to Drapes. But in the end at the end of the day, we had to win the game. So that's the whole thing to it. And then you mentioned 3 months later, things happen quickly. Then I beat one guy one-on-one, and it just so happened it was for the cup clincher. So, things happen for a reason, but I think that you look back to history, no matter what, where does it start?
The funniest thing is, the incident is, it starts with Larionov and Forsberg.
Well, here's the thing, Tony. You got the big, like look how it starts. And I remember inside the Blue Lights, I looked over and it looked like two little puppies on Christmas morning. But you got the biggest, dude. Who's the bigger pacifist in the history of the world other than Gandhi, than Igor Larionov? And then all 5'5", 130 pounds, soaking wet of him. But he's had enough, and this is where I implore. And I break down and I say, sometimes you look at who did it, and it's your elder statesman, right?
Yeah.
Not the guy who's going to do it physically or whatever, but sort of set the spark. And, I was ready. Shanny was obviously ready, because without him, I wouldn't have got free out of foot. But the whole thing, the best part is, the only thing I ever said about it was, I said one thing to Drapes when I picked him up from the airport, that I'd take care of him. That's it. Or in the airport, the hospital, after 2 days after his face was all mangled up in May of '96 at Henry Ford. I remember. That's the only thing that was ever said between any of us. And that just goes to show you that, to that mentality, I understand, and I use it as when you have different groups or different cliques or different teams, when they just you operate on a different level, and that's. You don't think, you just know, and that's something that 23 years later I'm proud to talk about. I think that every household should have that fight pitcher in it, or every establishment in Michigan.
Yes.
But I'm working on it, Tony. I think I'm halfway through the state, maybe not quite halfway, but I was serious. And people ask me that, how many of those fight pitchers? The one I'm talking about with Lemieux Turlin, and I said, I think, Jamie, in 23 years, it's safe to say I probably signed close to 80,000 of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Easily.
Well, it's not easy, Tony, because I'm not doing Stony out the guff math. I'm doing try to reality, right? Like not 3 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks today, right, Jamie? 2 weeks today we've been holding.
2 weeks
Oh,
today.
my God. You've been
2 weeks today.
Yeah.
Stanley, get it right.
Stanley.
All right, so Darren, real quick, before we let you go, so tell us again, today you and Draper and Maltby are doing a webcast about the game?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned Grind Time with Darren McCarty podcast. I drop a new one every Wednesday with NRM Streamcast, and I'm doing a 25 on 19. I've been doing 3 days a week, but I got Drapes and Maltz. We're going to video chat in there, and between 4 and 5 Eastern. We're going to go through it, and everybody, I'm sick and tired. I've been the last couple of years going through and get people, remember from my perspective. I gotta ask these guys if they remember. I remember I gotta ask Drapes about the ride in, the drive into the rink that day, because him and Aaron Ward always used to ride in together. 23 years later, I gotta see if I'm not gonna ask Maltz, but I'm gonna ask Drapes if I got it right. So he'll tell me. We can listen later on today.
We will. Darren, Stoney and I love the game. I'm obsessed with it. It's the greatest hockey night I've ever experienced as a fan. So thanks for being such a big part of it, and thanks for coming on today.
Anytime, guys. And keep doing what you're doing, and we'll get through this, and we'll see you down at the we'll see at one of the places. We'll see at one rink stadium, arena.
Hey, Darren, does your cannabis, does that help with this coronavirus?
Absolutely, Tony. I'll tell you this right now, is that it can't hurt. You get everything working towards you. You get that endocannabinoid system flowing, and I'm Benjamin Blunt. Look at me, pictures today to 10 years ago, so 5 years ago. Get educated,
all right, there he is.
And you too could be D-Mac. There you go.
Oh, you're the best.
All right, Darren. Thanks, man.
All right, later.
Talk to you soon. Darren McCarty, the one and only, on March 26th, 97.1 The Ticket.
97.1 The Ticket. Traffic.
From the WWJ AM 950 Traffic Center, this report brought to you by UHY. The Blue Water Bridge, Ambassador Bridge, and the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel will remain closed to all non-essential travel. That'll be in place until further notice. And of course, no cash transactions are being accepted at any of those border crossings either. With the recent decline in the stock market, it may make sense to review your portfolio to determine if there are any tax-saving opportunities. Call 586-254-1040. UHY Certified Public Accountants. I'm Michelle Pena with traffic.
Now available for download. Always aggravated. A Mike Valenti signature podcast. Get it on radio.com and Apple iTunes.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably. Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The next time you're in Vegas, head to the D Las Vegas. It's not on the Strip, it's in downtown Vegas. The odds are better, the party's bigger, and you'll feel right at home. Book your stay today at thed.com. The D Las Vegas, your home for Detroit sports in Vegas.
Coppercraft Distillery is a tribute to the American craftsman. Their premium spirits are built upon the legacy of industrious Michigan workers who created quality goods and exported their handiwork across the nation. The auto manufacturers, furniture craftsmen, farmers, and entrepreneurs of our state left an enormous heritage. They proved that craft and time yield incredible results. Coppercraft's premium small batch spirits are artfully crafted and award-winning. Learn more and find a store near you at coppercraftdistillery.com.
With diseases like coronavirus, the flu, and hepatitis A on the rise, it's your job to wash your hands and cover your cough. Remember, wash your hands using soap and warm water before you eat or prepare food and after using the restroom. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or your upper sleeve. Stop the spread of germs to keep yourself and loved ones healthy. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Since 1941, the Dickey family has been smoking the very best quality meats, low and slow, every day. We want you to know that all across America, every Dickey's Barbecue Pit restaurant is here for you and your family. Still working the block and ready to bring the Q to you with free doorstep delivery, curbside pickup, or carryout. Let Dickey's take the worry out of dinner. Order on our app or at dickeys.com. Legit Texas barbecue.
A social distancing tip.
Keeping your distance from others is important in slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are some fun things to do alone. Read a book, take a walk, unpack your suitcase from that trip you took last September, paint a self-portrait, catch up on a TV series, do a puzzle. Remember, we should all stay home to lower the risk for everyone. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
97.1 The Ticket is helping Metro Detroit stay connected. For more, go to radio.com/stay connected.
Your business ideas need room to run wild, but there's no room for error when you're raising the bar. A reliable partner can make a real difference. That's the role of a realtor. An irreplaceable expert who represents your values. A reassuring voice of reason helping you research and reach the right decisions. So you can run your business without running the risk. Is your agent a realtor? Look for the R. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
The motto for world-class competition has always been faster, higher, stronger. It's the same for Navien, makers of condensing tankless water heaters. Faster to install and set up. Higher performance and efficiency to provide endless hot water. Stronger with the industry's strongest warranty. All because of the copper-free stainless steel heat exchanger built in every unit. Learn about Navien's condensing tankless water heaters and find a Navien contractor at tanklessmadesimple.com. That's tanklessmadesimple.com.
What
What is Metro Detroit's favorite food? Tacos or burgers, pizza or Chinese? It's your turn to pick which food will reign supreme. Go to 971theticket.com/takeout bracket to vote for your favorites and fill out your own takeout bracket. Check back each day to see which food advances to the next round.
You've got a question? We've got an opinion. 97.1 The Ticket.
Jamie and Stoney on 97.1 The Ticket on a Thursday morning. Weather forecast for today, kind of cloudy, a little cloudier than it was yesterday, but actually warmer, and then some afternoon rain. The weekend sounds like a bit of a washout, as they're saying 80% chance of showers on Saturday. So apparently that's the day to stay inside and watch movies with your family, or play board games, or do jigsaw puzzles.
Yes, or watch great NCAA games from the past, maybe.
Oh, that's right. We don't know the rundown yet, or do we? I forget.
I think I said it. I don't remember what it is. You know, a friend of mine was asking me yesterday, how come they haven't shown the 79 game, Michigan State, Indiana State, and maybe it's because I don't know, CBS didn't have the game. It was on NBC.
I'm sure that's the reason why, don't you think?
Yeah, it's got to be the reason. I don't know why NBC wouldn't give that up. I don't know if CBS would even ask, but
right.
You would think it would be highly watched, right? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Although that game was not as great a game as people, try to romanticize about.
Didn't Bird have a really bad game?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't, it wasn't like he had, the game before in the Final Four game where he was unbelievable in the first half. And I made a proclamation watching, it was my senior year of college. No, it was my junior year of college, saying that I'll do a shot of, it was Johnny Walker Red for every basket he made, because I wasn't, the Birds, he's good, but he's not great. And then I think he had 20 points in the first half, was just passed out at halftime. Oh, that anniversary also today of the championship game? Wow.
March 26, 1979 is when they played the national championship game between MSU and Indiana State.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was great talking to Darren McCarty, who was on with us last segment. And again, if you missed it, check out his podcast at Grind Time on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you can find your podcasts. And it sounds like that's where he will be doing the webcast with Draper and Maltby later. It's funny, you asked him about his relationship with Claude Lemieux and the fact that they've done signings together, and they have, and Lemieux has, I think, for the most part, tried to make peace. What I don't know, and this is a question that maybe Darren could have answered, is I don't know if Lemieux and Draper ever made peace.
Well, I don't know, but I know Draper has talked about, Lemieux's he's not the biggest, but he's a pretty big agent in the NHL right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the general, Drapes is assistant general manager. So I'm sure they've run across each other in rink scouting, over the years. So
yeah,
that's an interesting question. I have no idea.
Because that was one of the biggest problems with the whole thing, was that it's one thing to have a hit on the ice, okay, and it was a dirty play, and there's no question it was a dirty play. Now, when Lemieux hit Draper, could he have anticipated that the gate was going to be open and that Draper's mouth would hit the gate the way that it did? That's up for debate, obviously.
Right.
But once you realize the damage that's been done to the player, you can apologize for that.
Exactly. That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, heat of the battle, would I take back the hit? No. Would I take back what happened to you? Absolutely. I do feel bad about that. But he never even did that. He seemed almost gleeful about it, and he seemed to almost taunt them that much further as the rivalry went along. So I think that was part of it as well.
Jamie, we have some ticket texts from people's favorite games that they went to that we never really got to because March 26, 1997, your favorite game. How about this? Huge Michigan fan, but I grew up in Ohio, and a friend took me to the shoe for the 2003 NC State Ohio State game. 3 overtimes. Phillip Rivers was amazing. Just a really fun game to watch in a crazy environment.
Wow.
Best game seen live, Barry's 2,000 yards game against the Jets. The Dome was unbelievably loud until Reggie Brown got hurt. Had never been that quiet at any game before. Then after the incident, it got even louder as the Lions went on to win, and Barry had the late run to break 2,000. Actually, he had a real short run that actually got him 2,000. Then on the next player, the one after that, he had the long run. That's from LP in Auburn Hills. That game, yes, when he said loud, the Jets were so... Neil O'Donnell was the quarterback. He was so flummoxed. He kept wasting timeouts. They had no idea what the hell... That Silverdome was the loudest I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
In all my time being there. There's no doubt about that.
Well, what's funny about that is the noise you're talking about, Stoney, because we played the clip about an hour ago, and we'll play it again, I'm sure, as the morning goes along, of the Pass Sports call of the March 26th game, where, as we mentioned at the time, the play-by-play guy was Mike Goldberg, who has gone on to do, I think, wrestling, I believe.
UFC.
UFC,
well, yes.
sorry. And he also famously did one Lions game a few years ago that fans absolutely hated.
Oh, yeah, you're
I'm trying
right.
to remember what game it was, but he was not good doing the game. But anyway, he was the Red Wings play-by-play announcer for about a year. And but the noise in the Joe, you could hear it in the fight, was like the roar, and then the roar when they realize it's McCarty and Lemieux, and then the roar gets bigger when it's Shanahan intercepts Patrick Waugh, and the roar gets even bigger when it's Patrick Waugh against Mike Vernon. I mean, it was just that was so loud. And again, it was a very and it was healthy, don't get me wrong. I never felt like the crowd was unruly, but it was a bloodlust. I mean, people wanted violence. It was like a movie crowd going to see the latest Saw movie. It's like, we know what we expect, and we want to see it in all of its gory detail. And man, they got it.
Yeah, and part of the reason was the first two games, or the first time that Colorado came back to the Joe, Lemieux didn't play.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then I don't think the first game in Colorado he didn't play or McCarty didn't play, and then they played in Colorado and nothing happened.
Yeah, it was like a Sunday night game, I think.
Yeah, and I know all the Denver fans said, "Oh, great! He did it at home. He didn't do it on the road." Okay,
of course he did.
Yeah,
yeah. Why wouldn't he do it? Yeah,
no doubt. Go ahead. Lions 16, Raiders nothing. 1982. Sims about 150 rushing. Lions defense with 3 or 4 goal line stands from inside the 2-yard line. My freshman year in Michigan, I had the Michigan versus Ohio State, the Desmond Howard Pose game, and then 3 weeks later, we got the Blue Devils playing the Fab Five, which was a great game. If you watched the 30 for 30, if you didn't remember, where Duke won in overtime at Chrysler.
Yep. Oh, well, I remember that game very, very well, because that was like the Fab Five's kind of national coming out party.
Correct.
A little bit.
Yeah,
to some extent. Yeah.
They still started only 4 at that time. If the no game at Notre Dame on a Sunday afternoon was the game where all 5 started for the very first time.
Yeah. All right. It is coming up on 7. You have one more?
No, I'm good.
All right. 7:30. Heather's got news coming up next. Good morning, Heather. What's going on?
Good morning. So the Tiger King, Joe Exotic, he may be in prison, but he really wants to be paid. And you guys, I'm telling you, you're not going to believe how much he's actually suing the government for. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Good timing. 97 won the ticket.
At Motor City Harley-Davidson in Farmington Hills, over 225 pre-owned motorcycles in stock. Many priced at $50.